Hello, welcome everyone. It's Nakul from Wiki. This is our NFL, obviously the Super Bowl preview. Only one game to go, Jacob. You've been on fire. I'm almost sort of a little bit upset we're coming to an end here.
I'm so pumped though. It has been an unreal postseason. Touchdown scorer tips. Like I said before, we haven't picked every game. We've only keyed in on a couple of games per weekend and just one crack at it each game and come up with a winner. Let's relive it. Rasheed Rice in wildcard weekend 11.50, followed by in the divisional round, George Kittle was $13, scoring first for San Fran, and then last week topped it off. Jameson Williams, and you said it would be an awesome show if that one hit at $34, which he did. And it was an exciting style too. Something like 46, 48 yards out. He scored from long range, as I predicted as well. And they nearly brought him down inside the 10 and he kind of stumbled and just got away from him and got in to make it, extremely profitable postseason. On top of that, we did a playoffs extravaganza preview on the Trypod platform and we had several double-digit odds tips that were super close to hitting, but no one really wants to hear that. But we had a team that was up 17 points that blew that lead. That had they got through, in the Detroit Lions, we would have won receiving yards leader for the postseason and passing yards leader, which they were both $13. They're both going to just come second, but also in that show, I tipped Isaiah Pacheco at $21 to have the most rushing yards of the postseason, and he does currently have the most by 66, ahead of Christian McCaffrey. So he's $1.40 to win that. It's not a done deal yet. I'm going to talk about how McCaffrey may have a fair bit of success. But so far so good. And I've dissected this game. I will also cross promote a larger, in-depth Super Bowl preview that I did with Eddie Given Sunday, who's a guru of the NFL and really adds to it on our platform. So I did a deep dive of about 80 minutes with Nettie. It shared a bunch of tips and reasoning. But of course, this is a briefer one. I'll just try and summarize what I like, and people can have a little lash at anything that they like the sound of.
No, awesome. Well, just before we get into it, guys, if you Google Wiki Linktree, the odds comparison tool that you see, we've got 4 or 5 different bookies for first and anytime touchdown score to help you find the best odds. Discord, this potty, everything. It's all free. Just Google Wiki Linktree. And Jacob obviously runs Tripod Punter Sips Forum, the Facebook group. As you can see, he's got NFL stuff on there, but obviously we're only a few weeks away now from NRL season, and Jacob and I, it's definitely our favorite sport. So in terms of actually tipping consistently. So a whole bunch of fun stuff coming up. Yeah, follow us, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Let's get into it.
NRL, my favorite sport, but the Super Bowl is so good, I'm telling you, even for a casual fan. It is such a great punting event. There's just markets for days. There's markets like you've never seen. Probably more markets for that one event than anything else you can punt on in the world of punting, the world of sports. So it's an amazing event, and it's all basically impossible to go through every market. But that also makes it hard for the bookies. So there are lots of opportunities you can find. In saying that, I haven't got anything that's too elaborate, but got some different ones here. Now, the game, of course, is San Francisco against the Kansas City Chiefs. The 49ers are the favorites at about $1.77 head-to-head, $1.80, depending where you shop. The Chiefs, if you want to play them, they're around the $2.10 mark head-to-head. And San Fran are favored by 2 points with the total at 47. It's being played in Sin City, Las Vegas, the same stadium that is going to host the NRL in just a few weeks' time. So I'll just put my cards straight on the table because we don't have to dwell too long, or I don't have to keep people guessing. I really like San Fran in this game. When you've got big matches, most of the time you're going to hear me say the bookies don't get it too far wrong. When there's that much scrutiny and that much action, and you've seen these teams play for a season, the line's usually fairly correct. It's hard to ever say, oh, they've just got that totally wrong. You don't get spots where, oh, this team's a lot more tired. This team could be flat. This team could be looking ahead. Like everybody's all in, right? So it's hard to find an edge, but I really feel like we may have one in San Francisco. And there'll be a lot of pushback against me because on the other side that I'm going against, Kansas City has Mahomes, who may well be the greatest player to ever play the quarterback position. Like that's the conversation. There is a guy named Tom Brady who did win a Super Bowl 7 times. Mahomes is going for just his third, but still in his 20s. Who knows how many he could end up with. And there's, of course, more that goes into it than just purely who wins at the end of the season. It's a team sport. But if you just want to talk about the level, that Mahomes plays this position, it's as good as we've ever seen anybody do it. So there will be a lot of backers for the Chiefs and people who will be taking them as an underdog. They were an underdog last week, they won. They were an underdog the week before and they won. So people are going to keep going back to the well, as opposed to San Francisco, solid favorites, over a touchdown favorites the last two games, snuck through, came from behind in both games, and won both games by only 3 points. So I think if you've bet San Fran so far, you've been more than likely burned. And if you've bet KC, you've been happy. But I think that brings these odds closer together, where in reality, to me, San Fran's still the superior team. And I also think the circumstances around these games, they've kind of played a little bit more into the Chiefs' hands. You know, the Chiefs did have an opponent in wildcard weekend who was just depleted and had just poured everything into the year and had a really disappointing loss 6 days earlier, and then had to travel to Arrowhead. And I'm talking about Miami. Just had nothing left to give, you know. So while the Chiefs looked impressive there, I don't read too much into it. I look at San Fran's opponents, and while they were both underrated in Green Bay and Detroit, I think they both played a couple of their best games of the year, and didn't allow San Fran to really get into the way they want to play. And as a result, San Fran didn't get to flex their muscles the way I think they can. So if San Fran gets out in front at all in this game, I could actually see them really going on with it. So I'll be betting San Fran not only to win the game and cover the -2, but even to win by more than a touchdown and even to win 14 plus. And I don't think anyone else out there is really predicting that. Lots of people picking the upset, and if they are picking San Fran, they think it's going to be a beauty. So I'm actually saying that a lot of great tight Super Bowls in recent memory, this could be actually not as close as people predict. Despite that, there's so many other markets you can bet on that I guarantee it will still be fun, will still be exciting. But let me go through some of the kind of props that I'm also looking at, Nakul. And I think just me giving my brief summary of why I like Kansas City is going to partially inform why I've looked at some of these bets. I'm going to back Mahomes to throw an intercept. He is right around 50-50 in this market. So $1.86 I saw for Mahomes to have an intercept, or sometimes the market is listed intercept yes or no. And I'm saying yes, the reason being I think he's going to have to force it. He's going to, have to pull something out of the bag a couple of times. And also San Francisco having such a good defensive line, they're going to create pressure. When there's pressure on a quarterback, may have to rush a throw under duress, throw while getting contacted, many different ways where your throw can just be off target. Not to mention San Fran's got some ball hawking defensive backs and linebackers too that could pick Mahomes off. For similar reasons, Mahomes under 262 passing yards. Now, this could lose if Kansas City falls too far behind, where then they got to throw caution to the wind. It's one of those things, though, if Kansas City's just down a couple of touchdowns and has to just go balls to the wall, the odds of an intercept dramatically increase, but Mahomes is more likely to have more passing yards. So you kind of cover both bases there. I'm going to play them both. Mahomes under on yards and to have an intercept. But the overall premise is just I don't think he's going to have a lot of success. And it's not all a fade on Mahomes as much as it is his receivers. We know that he's got an all-world tight end, Travis Kelce, who's highly publicized, especially this week. But outside of that, look, Rashee Rice, he's won a couple of times for us. He's been good too. But Kansas City, if they do have a weakness, they don't have a great deal of reliable pass catches. So a couple that go against the Kansas City passing game. I know Kansas City will want to run the ball because it will be tough to pass. And I actually think Mahomes in an important game, in a high leverage game, is likely to run it more. And you can think about it for an example, or in a comparison to rugby league, where let's just say a guy like Nathan Cleary, if they're winning easy, he doesn't need to take on the line too many times. He can just pass it around and they'll score, in the outside backs. But in a big game, your best players and your halves, like having a half that will run and challenge the line can be a skeleton key and can be that extra kind of secret weapon. And it's a little bit like that with quarterbacks, that they typically don't run it too much, partly because they don't want to take on that wear and tear over a season. And every run is an opportunity to get hit and to get hurt. But in the final game of the year, you don't want to leave any bullets in the chamber. So I think Mahomes will take off a few times. He's deceptively athletic. And I did give out the over 25.5 rushing yards. I'll tell you a quick story, Nicole. Similar over under Mahomes was in the Super Bowl 4 years ago when these two teams met. And it was bet all the way up to 35.5. He had a great day out rushing. He had 45 rushing yards. And on the final possession of the game, when Kansas City had the ball and led by 11, he ran backwards for 3 yards, then backwards for 5 yards, then backwards for 8 yards on 3 consecutive plays just to burn the clock down. That was -16, which took him all the way back to 29. And plenty of people had played over 30, 31, 32. That was brutal.
Christ.
So anyway, hopefully it doesn't happen again, but I like over 25.5. I've also played Mahomes over 11.5 for his longest rush. I think there's going to be at least one where you can scamper for for a first down and then some. So those are some of the bets I like when Kansas City's got the ball. When San Francisco have it, I think 2 weeks preparation, Deebo Samuel proving that he is fit, where that was a big question mark last week. San Fran will give us their best players. Their strength is their offensive line. And if they're in front as well, they'll want to limit the risk that they take. Brock Purdy's still a young quarterback. They'll want to play players that are closer to the line of scrimmage and guys who they can put the ball in their hands and then let those guys potentially break off explosive plays. I like a couple of the superstars on the San Fran side. Deebo Samuel, and I'm playing him over. Now, the thing about the two guys I like, Deebo and McCaffrey, there can be a threat in the running game and the passing game. You can bet over rushing yards or receiving yards. And that has burned punters many a time. You back a guy over on rushing, he catches a little pass. The pass went 1 yard, and then he runs for 50, but it counts as passing, receiving yards. Yep. Or if you back a receiver to have a bunch of receiving yards, then of course he'll catch a backwards pass, which is classified as a run, or he'll take an end around and he'll run it for 40. So I'm just playing combined. Therefore, I don't need to worry about how they get the ball. I just know they will get the ball, Deebo and McCaffrey. So Deebo Samuel, over 75.5 rushing and receiving combined, and Christian McCaffrey over 125.5 rushing and receiving combined. And the other thing about these players is they can have a big game and then they can be kept out of the fourth quarter if it's a big margin, which San Fran have enjoyed a lot of big margin victories this year. The Super Bowl, that's not going to be the case. When you're going up against such a star in Mahomes, you're not going to rest. You keep feeding these guys late in the game. So that's a couple more plays I like. And every play I've given out so far is basically, is a 50-50 market. It's a two-way market. So they're all right around the $1.90 odds mark. I gave out a same game multi. I'll share the same one. You've got McCaffrey at the top of the list, the first touchdown. If you just wanted to go back to anytime touchdown, Nakul, you'll see, and we've discussed this in previous weeks, McCaffrey has been very short. He's been like $1.30, $1.40. This one a little bit shorter just because San Fran's not as big of a favorite, but still $1.50 anytime touchdown. And he has scored each week. And I think he scores again in the Super Bowl. But I went for a bit longer odds. So I went Christian McCaffrey to score in the first half and Christian McCaffrey to score in the second half. And on top of you combine those, you get $8.50, which I think is really juicy because McCaffrey 2+ touchdowns is $3. So wow. If you think about that, Nakul, if you think about it, just convert it to rugby league, because that's going to work out easier in your mind. If we took a player, an example, I guess, would be the likes of Selwyn Cobbo for the Broncos, and he's $1.50 to score a try, right? And he's $3 to score 2 tries. Yep. And in this kind of example, the Broncos would be like a big favorite, like a 3-try favorite or whatever. Yep. But if I could offer you to score in the first half and in the second half at $8.50, like that's significantly higher odds. Of course, you can get a double within a few minutes and you score your double only in the first or second stanza, but for $8.50, so I really love that. That's a top sport. And then I got greedy. Then I added a third leg in, which is correlated, which is San Francisco over 24.5. Because now if I know that McCaffrey has scored in both halves, and I know they've got at least 2 touchdowns on the board, so I feel quite confident they would go over. So that same game multi was $12.
Ooh.
People want a juicy same gamer. And then let's have a drum roll. We'll get to the main course now. I'm going to take 2 shots, right? I have only had 1 shot per game each weekend, but we only got 1 game.
I think
So
you've
allow me 2 shots, especially because I'm going to give you a super long shot. Right, so my first pick for to keep the streak alive, and look, I feel like a little bit of a coward going the favorite, but I have not taken the favorite in this market in any of the previous games. I will go with Run CMC again, $5 for first touchdown again on Top Sport. I actually think is solid because I've explained I love San Fran and he is the most likely player to get the ball. And I know they're going to have some strong plays up their sleeve, especially, in their first couple of drives. So I'm not going to overthink this one. I am going to play Christian McCaffrey at $5 for first touchdown, as well as obviously I've played him over on yards and he's in my longer shot same gamer. But then creme de la creme, if we can end the year with an absolute bang and we can do it with it going increased odds each and every week of the playoffs up to the Super Bowl, we're going to take a selection that is so out of the box, it's not even in the odds comparison tool because it is not an individual player. I am going to back the San Francisco defense/special teams to be the first touchdown scorer. So I've done the work because not all bookies even have them as a selection. Some have like any other player, but any other player is much shorter. I want the $46 about San Fran defense or special teams. Now, you win if you score a touchdown off a kickoff. We've seen a kickoff return in the Super Bowl before for the first TD. You win if you get a punt return touchdown. You also win if your defense forces a turnover and takes it to the house. And as I mentioned before, just believing that Mahomes could be under duress and also tipping that he will throw an intercept. Of course, you get that intercept returned, then that could be a winner there. But the other way that San Fran could capitalize is, of course, if you can force a fumble, if you can sack Mahomes and rip the ball off him, then you could score in that manner too. So that's my ultra long shot there, $46 for the defense. I mean, again, to give you a rugby league equivalent, I guess the closest thing would be an intercept try, which doesn't happen as often in league, but I think it's well within the realm of possibility for me. So that was my long shot there.
I reckon I've thought of an even more relevant and imaginable scenario. It's a mix of a couple of things you've said. I'm imagining it's an NRL grand final. Like the Panthers are running it up against, like running it out of their own sort of 20, and then Pat Carrigan puts on a big hit. Leota knocks on the ball, and the Broncos take a couple of dud hit ups, and then Tommy Flegler, like Billy Walters puts Flegler over. I know it's not the exact scenarios in NFL, but I'm imagining like the turnover. And
well, it's
like
funny you say that, Broncos Panthers. If you really think about it, the first try in the grand final was a fluky, somewhat kick return. It was a short dropout that the Broncos, failed to gather, and Kenny just pounced on the ball. And of course, in league, all the same players play offense and defense, so you actually have to pick the individual. In American football, it's a little different, but it was a fluky try from someone you would have the least expected, and it wasn't scored in the traditional sense. So along those lines, that would be a great way to start off your Monday if you get that one early on. But I'll be more than happy if CMC scoring first as well at $5 because not only you're never going to turn your nose up at a $5 winner, but it would play nicely into a lot of the other bets that I'm going to be on and that I've advised to you tonight as well.
Hell yeah. So we're recording this on Wednesday evening Aussie time. I'm going to be putting this out there tomorrow, Arvo. So Thursday, Arvo, Sydney time, you'll see this pod, you'll listen to it. Obviously, feel free to get on whatever tips you want, gamble responsibly. Super Bowl's Monday morning. So we've got the best part of 3 or 4 days before the game to get on all these tips. I'll definitely be getting on the touchdown scorers. It's going to be a good watch on Monday morning.
Good luck, mate. And thanks for the opportunity to chat pigskin with you each week too. It's been great fun. I think we've done a solid 3 months of the show. So hopefully, again, people have taken something out of it. Of course, the results have been better than I could have even expected, and not saying that I could sustain for too long. So maybe in that sense, it's coming to an end at a good time. But yeah, it's been great fun. I'm glad that for those that have followed along, we have been able to be quite successful with some of these long shot tips.
Oh yeah, and I think from my experience, obviously not being a huge support or just don't know too much about American sports, it's been really cool to sort of learn from you while we've been doing this. And I think for both of our audiences, it'd be a really nice mix of changing things up, learning more about American sport. And I think obviously we'll see how this season goes. There's a lot we've both got planned for the NRL, but I think it's probably worth doing stuff like this, even if we don't do a whole season of NBA because it obviously goes on for a really long time. Just sort of getting into the busier periods of the season, just like the big events. It'd be awesome to do like mini pods where we cover off some futures markets and all that kind of stuff.
For sure. And well, we've got NBA playoffs in April, like I said, finals in June. So there'll be opportunities, but it's hard to think too far into the future when we've got this NFL big dance coming up. So excited for that. And yeah, good luck to everyone who does follow any of these plays, and I hope everyone enjoys the game.
Awesome. All right, let's hope we go 4 from 4 then on Monday morning Aussie time. But otherwise, guys, as always, hope you guys have enjoyed the last 3 months. Jacob's obviously done an amazing job with his tips, but obviously, yeah, he runs Trypod Punch Tips Forum, the Facebook group. Check it out. We've got almost 30,000 people on there, and Google Wiki Linktree, the pod that we're doing now, our Discord, all of our stuff for NFL, NBA, but also the NRL coming up is all free. Google Wiki Linktree, you'll find it there, and we'll catch you soon. Good luck and enjoy the Super Bowl.